Have you ever been sitting in a crowded room, surrounded by people but still felt completely and utterly alone? If you have, you need to see this. Because right now, 1 in 4 young men in the US reports feeling exactly like that every single day. It's that quiet, invisible isolation. Just you, glowing screens, and the heavy feeling that nobody really cares. But what if I told you this isn't your fault? In May 2023, the U.S. Surgeon General issued an 81-page emergency advisory. It placed loneliness in the exact same threat category as the opioid crisis. Even the World Health Organization just declared it a global health priority. The highest health authorities on the planet are sounding the alarm on your isolation. Because the physical toll is terrifying. Chronic loneliness increases your risk of premature death by 29%. That is the exact equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes a day. We are living through a massive friendship recession. Look at this collapse. Back in 1990, over half of men had 6 or more close friends. By 2021, that number plummeted. And worse, men with 0 close friends skyrocketed from 3% to 15%. A 5-fold increase in just 30 years. And tragically, this isolation is lethal, driving the U.S. male suicide rate to a record peak of 14.3. Look at these numbers. Your loneliness is structural, it is measurable, and it is growing. So how did we lose all our friends? To understand why, we first have to separate 2 massive concepts: social isolation and loneliness. Social isolation is objective. It is countable. It is the literal, physical absence of other human beings in your life. But loneliness? Loneliness is completely different. It is a subjective, internal feeling. It is the painful experience of insufficient connection. This is why you can be surrounded by people at a crowded party, yet feel completely invisible. And for men, this invisible feeling stems from how our friendships are actually built. Look at women's friendships. They are largely built on emotional disclosure, face-to-face sharing, and direct conversation. But men's friendships, they are historically built side by side through shared activities. We connect through sports, school teams, or grinding together at work. Sociologists call this the structural model. When that shared activity ends, like graduating or changing jobs, men often have no reconnection mechanism. The friendship fades. We bond through the activity itself. Our connection relies entirely on doing things together. This structural collapse isn't just sad. It is literally destroying your brain. You already know chronic loneliness spikes premature death risk by 29%. But new research reveals it also increases your dementia risk by a staggering 50%. Why? Because the human brain is fundamentally a social organ. Without meaningful contact, cortisol skyrockets. This makes chronic loneliness the biological equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It is a severe medical threat, systematically weakening your cognitive pathways. And we can literally see this structural damage happening inside longitudinal brain MRI scans. You are not failing at friendship. The structures that held us together collapsed, leaving millions of men waking up every single morning, silently staring out the window of an empty room. The structural collapse of male friendship left millions isolated. So what comes next? When you strip away a person's community, you leave a massive, gaping void. And right now, that void is being weaponized. Researchers have found that profound loneliness almost always comes first. The isolation precedes the ideology. This young man isn't sitting in the dark looking for hatred. He is simply looking for connection. He has 3 very real psychological needs. He needs a sense of belonging. He needs an identity. And he needs an explanation for his pain. The manosphere steps in to perfectly match these exact needs. It offers community, it provides a fierce brotherhood, and it hands him someone to blame. Radicalization is a documented 6-stage process, not a personality type, which means it has clear intervention points where this downward spiral can be actively interrupted. Yet, this pipeline is ruthlessly efficient. Today, a staggering 40% of adult American men trust at least one anti-feminist or pro-violence voice online. But right as this crisis peaks, there is a massive counter-signal. A behavioral rebellion is sweeping through Gen Z, actively dismantling the exact emotional suppression that feeds this dark pipeline. It is a radical shift, and it is called clear coding. Named after clean programming, clear coding means no hidden logic. It replaces ghosting and mixed signals with direct, brutally honest communication about feelings and intentions. It strips away the anxiety of modern socializing by attacking the root of our profound isolation. 64% of young singles now demand this emotional honesty, because while loneliness is a structural failure, true human connection is a choice. But wait. Before we blame everything on a male-only crisis, good science demands we ask one more question. Is this really a male epidemic? According to Pew Research in 2025, the gender gap in loneliness is exactly 1%. 1%. That completely shatters the internet's favorite narrative. But then, look at AARP's 2025 data side by side. For adults over 45, 42% of men and 37% of women report being lonely. 2 studies. 2 completely different answers. So who is right? Both of them. When you read conflicting studies, you have to look closely. First, who was studied? Age and gender matter. Second, how was loneliness measured? Self-reporting is different than clinical scales. And third, what time period? Post-pandemic data shifts everything. The truth is, loneliness does not care about your gender. It cares about your life circumstances. And as we age, it reveals itself as a universal human epidemic. It just hits men and women differently, at different life stages, through different mechanisms. For men, friendship structures collapse after school ends. For women, loneliness rises sharply after age 45. Both are real. Neither cancels the other. So how do you actually fix your own isolation? In 2018, researcher Jeffrey Hall discovered the exact math of connection. 50 hours makes a casual acquaintance. 90 hours makes a friend. But it takes a massive 200 hours to build a close friendship. Here is your self-audit. Think of someone in your life right now. How many hours have you spent together? 10? 50? 200? That number tells you exactly where you stand. Connection is not an accident. It is an accumulation. What will you do with your next hour? You now know the truth. The statistics are clear. Loneliness is a structural failure of modern society. But human connection is a choice. If you want to know how to start that first hour of connection right now, click the video on your screen.